Greetings, tribe. This is Dr. Camelia Straughn, your Own Your Life transformational coach and mentor. And this evening, I'm coming to you to share some information on how we can bounce back, right? So we know that different things are going to happen in life. We know that life is not going to stop just because we have some big goals, because we have some things that we want to accomplish. And so in the midst of trying to accomplish those goals, some things are going to knock us down, right? And in that, what we want to do is concentrate on some tips that we can share with you so that when that does happen, you don't stay there. Because that's the key, is not to stay down or stay stuck, right? So the first thing is going to be to reprogram your conscious mind, right? And so when you think about your conscious mind, we're thinking about the thoughts and how you see your circumstance. And when you look at how you're seeing your circumstance, it's what is causing you pain and suffering. What's the story you're telling yourself is really what this is coming down to. What are you creating in your mind about what you're experiencing? And so when we look at that, if we think about, okay, so what are you telling yourself? Because sometimes we can actually take a situation and totally catastrophize it to the point to where we have entered into a space that where we feel and really believe that all is lost, right? So what we want to do, we want to be able to avoid that. And if you do get into that place, it's going to be important not to stay there, right? You don't stay there. Now, so what are you thinking? What is causing your suffering? Okay. So what you're going to want to do is just stop and actually literally play a game with yourself almost, right? So you look at the situation and you ask yourself, what is the absolute worst case scenario, right? What is the worst thing that could happen? And then when you think of that, then you will see that, okay, that's the worst case scenario. Then anything short of that, you're going to be fine, right? Because you know how to get up. You've done it before. You know how to get up. The thing is recognizing that you have control over what you think and over how you feel about what you're seeing and what you're thinking. And putting those together so that you will create thoughts and feelings that say, okay, this is an issue, this is a concern, but it's not something that is going to completely stop me from completing my goals or reaching my goals if I don't want it to. Know that you have that much power over your life circumstances. Okay? And in that, you're asking yourself, what am I thinking about right now? And what am I telling myself? So you stop in the midst of all of that. Once you've asked yourself, what's the worst case scenario, right? What is the absolute worst that could happen? And then when you have that thought, you ask, okay, so if that worst case scenario happened, then what? Then what? And then you will find that sometimes our worst case scenario is not where we really are, right? So what are you telling yourself about that situation? And how are you seeing it? So now that you've done that, what are you going to do? You're going to stop. Okay, just stop. You've created a worst case scenario. So now you're looking at this door. Because that worst case scenario is like a door that's closed. Right? A door that's closed. So stop looking at it. Stop knocking on it, trying to open it, because that's not what you want in your life. That's not the circumstance or the peace that you want to come into your space. So stop looking at the closed door. That's your worst case scenario, right? And you do this anytime that you are angry, frustrated, sad, depressed, or just simply say, this should not be happening. And as you begin to do this on a regular basis, you realize that you actually can determine the outcome of the situation. So now that you're looking at this and you're asking yourself the worst case scenario, then the flip side to that is say, what is the actual lesson in whatever's happening? So if you look at and see the lesson, then you can also create a best case scenario, which means you're looking at what good is coming out of this. No matter what it is, it can be the completion of a relationship, right? And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's always a romantic relationship. It could be a business relationship. It can be a friendship that you've had literally all your life. And then one day it comes to a point to where you can no longer share growth and space with this person. So if you're sitting and looking at that scenario, that space, and saying, oh my goodness, this is my friend, and you just totally, for lack of a better word, worked yourself into a tizzy about it, recognize that everybody is not meant to always be there. Some people are there just for a quick second. Some people are there for a season. And then yes, there are some people that are there for a lifetime. The key is not to get them all confused. Right? Is not to get them confused. So when you look at any situation that you're in, and you fall, you get up, and you ask yourself these questions. Always end with asking yourself, what is the lesson. Because know now, if you choose not to work through and actually see the lesson in something that you deemed a failure, or something that you deemed an issue, a problem, whatever that is, ask yourself, look at it and say, what is the lesson? Then you get the lesson and you make the necessary adjustments. Right? So now the other piece, the second part to bouncing back, is you're going to reprogram now your subconscious mind. Right? And so your subconscious mind is that part of your thoughts that you are not quite aware of. Right? So our subconscious mind is that piece that's like working in the background. It can be something as simple as, experiences that we've experienced as children, things that we were told as children. Okay? That's where your subconscious mind. This is where your limiting thoughts come in. You right? Those deep beliefs. How do you look at money? How do you look at relationships? Right? So you think about money and you remember the different conversations. So did your parents have conversations of where they were always concerned about where money was going to come from? Right? Or the conversations always surrounded the fact that, people who had money were thieves or crooks. Right? Or when we look at relationships, how do you look at relationships? What are your limiting thoughts around relationships? I'm not wife material. I'm not husband material. And there are some that, are having the conversations with themselves that, I'm always going to be the other man or the other woman. No one is ever going to stay. I can find love, but it never stays. They always leave. So that's what the subconscious mind, that's those thoughts. Right? And so when you're working with trying to reprogram your conscious mind, it's going to take a little bit of work, simply because you don't necessarily know that those thoughts are there, because you do not manifest what you want, right? You manifest what you believe. So your subconscious thoughts are going to be those things that you actually believe. So you're going to have to address what you believe. Do you believe that you are worthy to be in a loving relationship? Do you believe that? Or are you just saying it? You see? Do you believe that you have a good relationship with money? Okay? So that's where the subconscious mind comes in. And you have to begin to take the steps to be aware of what's going on with that. So what we say is, it is important to take the steps to reprogram your brain with the beliefs, thoughts that are required to be successful in the area you want to achieve success. So what does that mean, Dr. Straughn? What does that mean? What? Okay, so what that means is that when you look at any particular part of your life, right? You're looking at any particular part of your life. So if we look at money, Don't be afraid to actually really stop and say, how do you really think? What are you really thinking when you hear and look at money? Right? What are you really thinking? So if you think that everyone who's rich has manipulated someone, taken advantage of someone, they're crooks, they're dishonest, and different things like that, you're going to subconsciously do things that are going to keep you from being wealthy when it comes to finances, because you don't want to be a crook. You don't want to be labeled as someone who's taking advantage of someone else, right? So if those are your thoughts as it pertains to money, then you have to create new ways of thinking when it comes to money. Right? That was a struggle for me for a long time. I spent a lot of time in the space of feast and famine. Feast and famine. And it was almost as if, like money just like, it's like my hands was just like open and it just poured through. Right? But then I began to realize, okay, so why is this? I make this amount of money a year and I'm still struggling. I'm still not being able to meet the needs of my family, right? I realized that I had to change the way that I looked at money. And it took some work. Because I grew up in an environment where it was always talked about, I don't have enough. I'm barely making it. I'm living from paycheck to paycheck. And I'm always one day, 1 week from being homeless. And for a long time, that's the way things moved in my space. Literally. One paycheck. One moment, one conversation away from being homeless. But then once I realized, okay, Camellia, this has to stop, because this is not the life I want to live. I want to be able to create things that are going to help my children achieve the things that they want to achieve. I want to be able to provide for them without worry or without even being literally concerned about how it's going to happen. And that was the key, is to get into a space to where I said, I'm not worried how it's going to happen. It is going to happen. Money is my friend, right? Money and I have a great relationship. I love money. Money loves me. Money knows that it is a tool in my life. So it's going to stay there so it can work and do what it is supposed to do. And then reconditioning my subconscious mind that I am worthy to live that type of life. That it is my birthright to have everything that I need and then some. To live a life of plenty, abundance, right? And the same with our love relationships. How do you see yourself in your love relationships? Or any relationships with your family, with your children, with your spouse, with your cousins, with your aunts, your uncles, your mother, your father. How do you see those relationships playing out? When I work with my clients and we move into the space of looking at how their relationships are with their parents or with their significant others, we discuss and I help them with creating what we like to call a manifestation journal. And what this journal does is give them a space to write about exactly how they want their life to be, how that relationship is actually functioning. And you do that in great detail. So much so that as you're writing, you feel it. Right? Because that's going to be the thing. It is what you believe you deserve and what you feel you deserve. Those are the things that are going to be there in your space. So take some time and just write about how do you want that relationship to be. And when you do that, it's not saying I do not want, right? Concentrate on what you do want. And in doing that, it is going to open up the universe to send you the resources that you need to create that space, to assist in creating that space that you're looking to have. Whether it's with your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, your husband, your wife, co-workers, all of it. Concentrate on what you want. And that's how you're going to reprogram your subconscious mind. It's about asking yourself, do you want change? And if you want change, how bad do you want change? Do you want change bad enough to where you're going to do the work that needs to be done in order for it to happen? And if that answer is yes, you do the work. You make the choice. You seek out those people who are going to assist you in being accountable, who are going to assist you with finding the resources that you need in order to move from the have-nots to the haves. Right? So, now, in looking at that, the other piece is also going to be recognizing what are your real beliefs surrounding what you are asking for. So all that just plays a part in all of that. So you recognize your beliefs about what you're asking for. And then you create another way of seeing and feeling of all of that. And recognize that peace, joy, love, happiness, abundance, all of those are your birthright. The key is doing the work in order to create those things in your space. Because see, just because that was the space that your parents lived in, or even my parents lived in, does not necessarily mean that's the space that you have to live in, right? So finally, the third thing with bouncing back is going to be increasing your vibration, right? And increasing your vibration, it's really going to be about understanding the space that you're in. So let's say this. Your vibration is simply describing your overall state of being. Right? It's your state of being. Are you being happy? Are you being peaceful? Are you being grateful? Or are you being angry, frustrated, unkind, surly? What is your state of being? And when you recognize that your state of being is not in accordance with what you're trying to accomplish, then you work on changing that. Okay, Dr. Straughn, I'll work on changing that. How do I work on changing that? Here's a tip. Right? So as you're writing in your journal or your manifestation journal, always enter with a sense of gratitude. No matter what it is you're doing, always enter that space in gratitude. So I give you a few things that can raise your vibration. 1, find an exercise that you enjoy, right? 2, meditate. 3, be aware of what you watch, listen, and read. Okay? Drink lots of water. Believe it or not, we're 70% water. I know you got the skin, the flesh, the bones, and all that. But all of that is made up of about 70% of water. So drink a lot of water. Spend time in nature daily. Daily. If it is just simple as if you get up out of when you're at work and leave out of your office to go stand in the sun. Eat fresh, healthy, wholesome foods. Right? Get some form of energy healing and rebalancing every couple of months. Right? Take one step toward your soul's task every day. Now, some of these things, there are a couple of more. I'll stop there. Right? A couple of those, you're going to have to really evaluate whether or not you are going to need to find someone who is going to be able to assist you with that. Okay? Don't be afraid to do the research. Ask the questions. Talk to your friends. Talk to your co-workers. What are they doing? You know? Find those people who are living the life, who have accomplished the things that you want to accomplish, and connect with those people. Ask them. And then emulate that. Emulate that. Right? So we talked about 3 things that you can do to bounce back. No matter what it is. Bounce back. The first thing is going to be to reprogram your conscious mind. Okay? The second is going to be to reprogram your subconscious mind. And the third is going to be take those steps that are going to raise your vibration. Right? Those are the things that you can do to bounce back. And it doesn't matter what the situation is. It really doesn't. If you put in the work, ask the questions, and connect with those who are where you're trying to get to, you'll be able to get to where you want to be. I thank you for sharing this time with us. And you can follow us on Twitter at Rising Star LC. You can connect with us on Facebook at Dr. Camelia Straughn, Rising Star. You can email us at risingstarlifecoach@gmail.com. And you can continue to subscribe right here at YouTube to make sure that you're always being connected. We enjoy and love the opportunity actually to serve you and to be able to help you move forward with the things that you're trying to accomplish in your life. So with that, I am Dr. Camelia Straughn, your Own Your Life Transformational Coach, loving you with all the love in my heart. Namaste. Peace, family.